The USA, Russia, and China are the three countries with the biggest armies in the world. Damn. Make up 52% of all militaries worldwide. It's obvious that they have big armies, but how big? We compared the total amount of active personnel in each country's army, their budget, their tanks, aircrafts, and so much more. Who has the most powerful army in the world? Let's find out. Number 3, the USA in 2021. The US spent over $700 billion on its army. This is by far the biggest army budget in the world, more than double that of China, and almost 10 times as much as Russia. With such a huge budget, it's no wonder the US spends about $19 billion per month on its military. That's enough to build 280 new fighter jets every month. Crazy, right? Their total military personnel numbers around 1.5 million people. Out of these numbers, 1.4 million are active soldiers, and 850,000 are in reserve. The US Army has 487,000 active soldiers, which is the largest in the world, followed by the Chinese Army with 900,000 soldiers. These numbers alone show us that the US might have the best trained soldiers in the world. After all, they have one soldier for every 333 citizens. That's much less than both China and Russia. Now, let's take a look at their air force. Now let's compare their navies. China has the largest navy in the world with 355 ships, followed by the United States with 293 ships. But when it comes to submarines, the US has the edge, with 70 nuclear submarines. While China has 0 and Russia has 62, Russia, however, has the largest number of naval personnel, with 334,000 sailors, followed by the US with 322,000 and China with 230,000. The US does have a lot more military bases around the world, though. They have 800 military bases in 70 countries, while Russia has 150 military bases in 25 countries, and China has 30 military bases in 21 countries. Number 2, Russia. The Russian army hasn't always been so large. In fact, during World War II, they only had a couple of 100,000 soldiers. However, after the war, the Soviet Union began to grow their army rapidly, amassing a peak of 6 million soldiers in 1987. Since then, their numbers have decreased, but their power has increased significantly. Although this is a decrease from last year, it's still the second largest army in the world. Russia also has the second largest army budget in the world, with $68 billion. Following the USA, with $700 billion, it's hard to believe, but the Russian army could actually be stronger than the USA's in terms of pure strength. Why is that? Well, if we look at the sheer numbers of their army, it makes sense. For example, they have the second largest number of tanks in the world, with 15,000 tanks. The only country that has more is the US, with 23,000 tanks. Russia also has the second largest number of aircrafts in the world, with 4,294 aircrafts. Only the US has more, with 13,000 aircrafts. Russia also has the second largest number of helicopters, with 5,000 helicopters, while the third place has 3,000 helicopters. And if we look at the manpower, Russia has 1 million soldiers, while the US has 1.5 million soldiers. These are all staggering numbers, but Russia has a secret weapon that gives it the edge over the US: nuclear weapons. No one. China. China has been growing their army for decades now, but no one really cared until recently. During the Cold War, their army was pretty small, with only 2 million soldiers. But since then, their army has grown tremendously. Today, they have the largest army in the world, with 2 million soldiers. To be fair, though, most of these soldiers are in reserve. Only 900,000 of these are active soldiers. Despite having the largest army in the world, China's budget is the second smallest, with just $250 billion per year. The United States spends 7 times as much on its army as China. China's air force isn't too bad either. They have the third largest air force in the world with 1,900 aircraft, and the fourth largest navy in the world with 350 ships. However, they do have the largest number of nuclear submarines, with 63 nuclear submarines. The US has 70, but China is catching up fast. Now, when it comes to tanks, China doesn't fare so well. They have the 5th largest number of tanks in the world, with 2,860 tanks. While that's not bad, it's still 4 times less than the US. So what's next for these armies? All of them are going through some major changes. The US is focused on building the world's largest and deadliest Navy by adding $350 billion to their budget to add new ships and submarines to their fleet. China is modernizing their army by investing in new technologies and equipment. For example, they're building the world's largest aircraft carrier. Russia is doing the same by building new fighter jets and hypersonic missiles. The question is, will any of these armies ever get into action? Will we ever see a real-life battle between the three largest armies in the world? Well, anything is possible, especially with tensions rising around the world. These armies are prepared to defend their country, and they're ready to fight if needed. Now check out the largest armies in the world, or watch the insane Russian military bases you didn't know existed.